Well, welcome back to our Faith Forward small group videos. Today, let's talk about getting past faith-killing excuses. You ever made an excuse about something that you suspected God really wanted you to do, but you just didn't want to do? You felt you were not adequate for the task? I know I have. I ran across a website meant for college students the other day, and it had a page with excuses that it said were guaranteed to actually work. And it was serious. This was no joke. This was meant for college students who wanted to skip class, but you could try these in your situation. I give these to you as a public service. Tell your professor you got food poisoning. You're scheduled for jury duty. You just got your wisdom teeth out. I've actually tried both of those last two the same day. I told my dentist I had jury duty. I told the courts that I had to get my wisdom teeth pulled. Just kidding. You locked your keys in the car, and by the time AAA showed up, it was just too late. And it said, here is the most foolproof excuse of all. You accidentally ate some peanuts, and you're having an allergic reaction. It said the best part of that is nobody wants to see you, and you don't even need a doctor's note. Human beings are geniuses at making excuses. What's underneath that? Maybe laziness, procrastination, but mostly I think it's because we just feel inadequate, right? We feel inadequate for the job as parents. We feel inadequate about applying for that job. Like, why would somebody pick me? We feel inadequate about joining a gym and learning all the equipment and getting into shape. How about feeling inadequate about sharing your faith? How about feeling inadequate about serving God in a way that you feel pulled toward? Man, I've been at all those places for sure. Well, today we're going to look at Moses's favorite excuses, which makes him just like you and me, and God's responses. So in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 27, it says, by faith, Moses left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He persevered because he saw him who is invisible. That is awesome, but I'm here to tell you Moses did not start out this way. And what I want to look at today is the one episode that really was the hinge that Moses' whole life turned on. In Exodus chapter 3, in the desert, God appears to Moses, who at that time is an 80-year-old convict has-been. It's in the famous burning bush episode. And God says to Moses, who surely thought his best days were over, who surely thought he had kind of flushed his life down the toilet, God says, no, go. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. So there's this dramatic call from God, and Moses just gives God a list of excuses. Excuse number one, I'm a nobody. Verse 11, but Moses said to God, who am I? Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? You might remember the story. Moses, 40 years before this, had murdered an Egyptian that he saw abusing an Israelite. But regardless, he didn't go the route of the courts. He just wreaked vengeance, murdered this man. Of course, it was a crime, and so Moses now is on the run for 40 years from the justice of the Egyptian courts. So he's like, God, you must have dialed the wrong bush. Who am I to serve you? Have you ever felt like that? I sure have. I got to tell you, I often stand on that platform at church and think, who am I to serve God? I know how flawed I am. And I think to myself, why would anyone even listen to me? Well, look at God's answer to Moses and to you. I will be with you. Exodus 3:12. And God said, I will be with you. You know what I love about this? I love that God doesn't say, come on, Moses, you're the man. He doesn't give him a pep talk. God says basically, yeah, Moses, you're a nobody. I will not argue with you on that point. But I am somebody, and I will be with you. And you know what God said to Moses, Jesus said to you and me. Surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. God is with you. Man, that's pretty powerful, but it was not enough for Moses. He has another excuse up his sleeve, just like those college students. Well, I got another one. Excuse number 2. I don't know what to say. Verse 13, Moses said to God, well, suppose I go to the Israelites' sake of argument, and I say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, all right, what's his name? Then what'll I tell them? I don't know what to say. Ever feel like that? Yeah, God, I might share my faith. You might ask me to give my testimony. You might ask me to serve you. But what if somebody asks me anything about Christianity? I don't know how to answer. Well, God gives Moses an awesome response. 3 times in the next several verses, he uses the phrase, tell them this. Verse 14, say to the Israelites, I am has sent me to you. I am, that's his name. That's a whole other Bible study, but watch this. Verse 15, say, the Lord, the God of your fathers, has sent me to you. Verse 16, say to them, the Lord appeared to me. In other words, God's answer to the excuse is, tell them what you've experienced. Just tell them what is happening right now in this encounter with God. And this is really God's answer to you and me too. Tell them about the God you met and the way he's worked in your life and the peace you've experienced and the prayers that you've seen answered. Even the apostles said, hey, we just proclaimed to you what we have seen and heard. You know, people can argue your philosophy. They can argue your theology, but they can't really argue your testimony. So tell them what you've seen and heard and experienced. Now that's great, but Moses has another excuse. What if they don't believe me? Chapter 4, verse 1. What if they don't believe me or listen to me? And what if they say, the Lord did not appear to you? Do you see the phrase there? What if? What ifs can paralyze you. What ifs can paralyze you. And God shows Moses in response 3 miraculous signs and says, Moses, you can do these signs in the presence of Pharaoh and the people so that they believe that the Lord has appeared to you. So God's answer is, I will give you power. And again, there's a parallel for you and me in the New Testament when Jesus said, but you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you will be my witnesses. Now, does this mean God will perform miraculous signs every single time that you share your faith? No, of course not, but it means he will give you all the power you need to do the tasks he is asking of you. When God gives you a calling, God also gives you the power to do it. So step out there and try stuff and let God empower you. But look at verse 10. Moses has another excuse. Excuse number 4, I don't speak well. Verse 10, Moses said to the Lord, oh Lord, I've never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue. So, verse 13, oh Lord, please send someone else to do it. The bottom line for Moses was he just didn't want to go. Didn't matter what God said. What God was asking him to do, way out of his comfort zone. He just felt deeply inadequate and deeply unwilling. Can you relate to that? Again, I gotta be honest with you, I sure can. Kind of like, God, I'm reading your word and these are all very inspiring verses, but sorry, I don't want to do it. Well, watch God's answer. I'll tell you what, Moses, I'll send help. I have a helper on the way right now, your brother Aaron. God had an Aaron for Moses, and guess what? God has people all around you that he is also calling, who are also working for him. You're not out there all alone. God has people that you don't even know now, who you will meet once you step out in faith. For example, people who could help you in your sobriety if you take that first step of faith and go to that first meeting, but you're never going to meet them if you don't take that first step of faith. Or people who could be lifelong allies in your journey of faith once you step out in faith and become part of that volunteer team at church. So look back over these notes. Like Moses, you have God's presence, you have a testimony, you have power, you have a team. So what are you waiting for? You know, one of the life lessons of Moses is this: failures do not need to be final. Remember, Moses had killed that Egyptian 40 years earlier. He was still on the run, probably thought of himself as a has-been, and God looks over the earth and picks him. So don't ever think, who am I? I'm too stained, or I'm too old, or I'm too whatever. By including Moses in this Hebrews chapter 11 list of faith heroes, the author to the Hebrews is saying, if you feel like that, you're the exact kind of person that God's been using for centuries. So stop making excuses. Remember this: nothing ever happens to people who always say no. Say yes to God and see what miracles can happen. That's part of living life faith forward.